Hey folks, welcome back to West Virginia Cryptids and Strange Encounters. As most of you that have subscribed to my channel know that the majority of my videos are Bigfoot related. Bigfoot is a passion of mine, but my first passion has always been paranormal investigating. I really enjoy going out and checking out haunted locations and local legends. So today I'm going to take you guys on a little legend trip, and we're going to check out a local legend right here in Marion County called the Witch's Grave. Please join me. Welcome back, folks. Finally made it to Highland. I tried it yesterday and I come up, started the video yesterday. Had to come back today. It's a little later in the day because yesterday there were some people up here pulling maintenance on the church and stuff. I didn't want to try to do a video while they were there. And I'm up here hopefully before it gets dark today to finish the video up because there's no trespassing after dark. And we'll go up here and check stuff out. We're now at the gate that enters the Highland Cemetery. The witch's grave, or supposed witch's grave, is on the other side of the cemetery. And we'll enter here and I'll take you to it. We are now at what the legend calls the Witch's Grave, Cyrilda Jane Wetzel. Some call her Zelda, some call her Sarah, but as you can see, the actual name is Cyrilda Jane Wetzel. Legend says she was a witch and that this stone here was her nephew and he was a warlock. They also claim that because her stone and his stone point to the west, that is an indication that they were into witchcraft. But that's really not true. As you can see, her stone is actually pointing the same direction as the rest of them, which is to the east. However, his stone does point to the west. It's not doing that for any other reason than somebody has turned it around. Both his stone and her stone can be turned very easily. One thing I did forget to mention is the stone here that they call the Warlock. This is actually Tusca Roy Morris. He was actually Cyrilda's nephew and was actually killed in a tragic farming accident. So how he became known as the Warlock is, I believe, it's just with association with the same stone. Configuration is what Cyrilda has, as you can see, and the stone has wore quite a bit. It does say eternal life right here. This seems to be a Bible. Some say this down here is actually the stairway to hell. It just depends on how you look at it and with the wear on it. And others say it's a stairway to heaven, which is more what I believe. So that's what the legend is. After research, I found out, the whole myth of her being a witch is really not true. She was a really well-known, prominent lady in the local area, and her family actually was one of the pioneer or establishing families of the church. She would walk, every Sunday from her home, along with other members of the church here for service. It's just a shame that she has been dubbed as a witch. I believe some of that came from because some of the research I've done, it seems that she was kind of I don't want to say an extremely powerful woman, but she was a influential woman also. It seems to have a good, she had money and was influential in the community, and there were some folks that didn't take to that very well. Another thing is, why would a Christian minister, pastor, whatever wish you would call it, allow a couple that was supposedly into the satanic worship be buried in a Christian church? Now, with that being said, there have been some strange things happen in this cemetery and the church. There's been many stories of people seeing shadows. There's been EVP caught here. I have caught EVPs on investigations. And at one time in this area right here, looking from across the graveyard, another investigator and I seen what looked to be a large, or not, I can't say large, a tall, male-looking shadow figure standing right down here in this area. We've seen other shadows in this area. Like I said, we've caught several EVP, and just had some eerie things happen over the years that we've investigated here. The stuff that we've caught, or the things that we've caught inside the church, never seem to be female related. They always seem to be male related. So let's go into church and I'll show you around the church, and I'll tell you about a few of those. As you can see, it's a beautiful church. It was built and established in 1866. There's services still held here. I don't believe it's every Sunday. It might be like one Sunday a month. And it's got some interesting things. It has changed a little bit, but there's an interesting artwork here. A lot of people find this one very interesting. And with the disembodied head for a water fountain right there. There at one time, behind this cross, which I believe they have cleaned up now. You can still see a little bit of it, the circle. At one time, a few years ago, there was an actual pentagram drawn on the wall. I don't really believe that the church folks themselves did that. I believe it was just vandals. And another time, which I think they've cleaned up as well, this window here used to have a pentagram scratched in it. It's plexiglass. It's not glass, so someone scratched into it. And if you look closely, you can actually see the witch's grave right there in the middle. Like I said, it's a beautiful church, but I have had some strange happenings here at this church. Let me turn the camera around and I'll tell you about those. What I'm about to tell you are a few things that happened to me in this church on the multiple times I've investigated the church and the graveyard. At one time in this church, I was actually going around with a thermometer, checking out different temperature levels. There are chairs scattered about in the church now, but at one time they were actually in front of me here in a row, almost like a square. There was 4 of them. The 4 chairs are still here. One's to my right and 3 are to my left, up on the pulpit here. As I was checking temperature, I had another investigator friend here that was right here behind me with a camera. They heard something behind them. They turned around with the camera. As I went across toward the chairs, I actually had one of the chairs turn, not quite in a 90 degrees, but probably close to 30 or 40 degrees. It actually turned on its own. And then another time I was inside the church, I was sitting on the pew that's to my left. At that time, they had wood bottoms. They now have a padded bottom. They've done a lot of upgrading here at this church. And I had my still camera. It was late at night. There was a couple other investigators here with me. I was sitting there. One was here about where I'm at now, and then there were a couple sitting on the bench up here where the piano is. I actually took my camera with an outstretched arm, set it down on the pew, heard some noise, couldn't figure out what it was. At first, it kind of sounded like a scraping noise. Then shortly after that, I felt my camera hit me on my leg. It actually slid probably 18 inches, maybe close to 2 feet, probably closer to 18 inches across the bench and hit me on the leg. It wasn't a sudden thing. It was kind of a slow draw, scraping it like it took its time. Then another time it was here, the doors behind me actually opened. And I know that can happen, especially like today. It's a windy day. They may not have been closed properly. They may have jarred open. But the same night when I went home, my door on my house, or the apartment at the time, did the same thing 2 times in a row. The other time that was really startling, or whatever you may say, is when I seen the figure out in the cemetery. I was actually standing by the fence with some investigators out of another town. They were asking me questions because it was the first time they're here, and I've been here. Had been at this church and location several times, and I looked into the cemetery and saw the figure standing, and then it just blinked out, kind of like faded out. One of the investigators said, "Did you just see that?" And I wanted him to tell me what he saw. He described exactly what I saw, and that was his first and last time investigating. He decided to give up investigation and has never done it again. One other time, I come up and there were some people here that were just hanging out, checking it out, because it is a location that people come, because of the legend, and just check out, take pictures and stuff like that. It was an older couple with another lady. My son Justin and I come up. They seen us coming up the road. They thought they were going to be in some trouble. Back then, it wasn't posted during the night. But anyway, they thought they were going to be in some trouble. They thought somebody was coming, to chase them off. They realized we were investigators and asked if they could join in. We were inside the church doing, spirit box session, and it was answering questions. It was telling, it was like more of a male entity telling us the answers. It spooked the gentleman that was here because it said a few things. It answered his questions directly. And then all of a sudden, come across the spirit box, it says Annette. I had no idea the names of those three folks. And I asked the spirit box, well, who is Annette? And that's when the lady sitting beside me raised her hand and said, I'm Annette. That was very chilling for me, especially for them, that something that intelligent could get her name, speak out to her, and as well speak out to the gentleman that was here, with their first time being here. So whether the legend's true or not, I don't think it is. I believe the legend, that's just what it is. It's just a legend. It's folklore. I don't believe Miss Wetzel was a witch at all. I believe she was a very influential woman in the church, in the area. Her family was influential with, especially developing the church and establishing the church. But I don't know why there is activity here. It doesn't happen every time, but it's happened enough for me to want to keep coming back here. And that's about all I can tell you. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the beautiful location here, because it is a beautiful location. It's way on top of a hill. It's all by itself. The nearest home from here is probably close to a mile. And like I said, it sits on the top of the hill, overlooks the surrounding area, the valleys, and it's one of my favorite places to be. So thank you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and it's on to the next adventure. Thank you.